An alpha is engaged. He lives in the moment, recognizing the value of his opportunities, and he seizes them like a soldier captures his enemy. He's a master at influencing the energy around him. He works hard and plays hard, keeping his own emotions and reactions in check and taking care of whatever is important in the moment. He's not just a dreamer, but a doer, and he fearlessly puts himself in situations that bring life to himself and those he is associated with. Today, we welcome back a man who epitomizes what it means to be an alpha, especially in his ability to live life with no excuses and instead strives to engage himself in every situation with strength.
If you're a man that controls his own destiny, a man that is always in the pursuit of being better, you are in the right place. You are responsible. You are strong. You are a leader. You are a force for good. Gentlemen, you are the Alpha, and this is the Alpha Quorum.
Welcome back to the Alpha Quorum Show. Brad Singletary here. I'm here again with Taco Mike. You've made this whole thing famous. This should be the Taco Mike show, I think, because it always kind of sucks if you're not on the show. So glad you're here tonight, brother.
Too kind. Thank you, Brad.
Also, welcoming back again, Justin Mackie. Justin is the 2020 Alpha Quorum Father of the Year.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mike.
That's impressive.
I was here the whole time.
So today we're talking about engagement, which means that a man participates in life with good vibes. He isn't just involved. He manages himself, and he brings value to the situation. He brings value to the time that he has, whether his activity is alone or with other people. I wanted to include Justin on this. Taco Mike for sure definitely has strength in this area too, because you play a lot. You do a lot of cool things. I follow you on Instagram. At one point I asked you, how in the world could you afford to do all these kinds of things? You said, it's not about money. It's about, I'm the master of my time, or something along those lines. And you seem to spend a lot of time enjoying leisure. Your recreation is important to you. When I say leisure, I don't mean relaxing and lazy. I mean, you're really doing whatever you want. I've seen you all over the place doing cool things. In talking about engagement, being fully present, you told me that you know something about ADHD, which I think is kind of it's sometimes a little bit over-discussed, but also for many men under-communicated. That's something that people should know more about. And so if being present and listening and being where you are and being able to have the energy to do what you need to do is an important attribute of a solid man, something like ADHD could get in the way. Do you have ADHD?
I've never been diagnosed with it. I mean, I don't know technically, but I would definitely say that I check all the boxes personally. I've struggled with it.
He lost track of what he was saying, right?
Yeah.
He's
Squirrel.
trying to remember.
Squirrel.
Check. Check.
And it's I went from it being a struggle to being something that if I can keep it in the right place, it's a massive benefit. And so for me, I don't only try to overcome it and stay focused and stay on task, but use it like it's a superpower to allow me to do many different things at once. And be productive and spin many plates.
So what did it look like, in your younger life, or how would we, if we're watching the video of your story, what do we see that we start to say, that Justin Mackie, he's a little attention deficit or whatever? What do we see? Is it hyperactivity, or is it more the attention side of things, like concentration?
Yeah, I was never really a big when I was young. I found it hard to read. And comprehend what I was reading, and I don't mean comprehended as in I read the words and didn't understand them. I mean comprehension to the fact that I would read three pages, or I'd get to the end of a chapter in a book that I had to read at school, and realize that I was reading the words the entire time, but there was no story playing in my mind. I was thinking about airplanes or motorcycles or girls or, whatever. But I was physically reading a book. I was physically
Your
reading.
eyes are moving, but your brain is in another place.
Isn't that sort of like when you drive somewhere and then you just realize like, oh, I'm here at work. How did I get here?
Yes, I've done that. Yeah, absolutely. It's scary, isn't it?
Yeah.
So you're disconnecting from the thing you're supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
So that probably caused trouble with grades. You said school and so forth.
Yeah, I wasn't really a great student because, I wasn't engaged. I had a hard time when I was younger in school with looking to what I was being taught as being relevant in my life. Like, why am I, if it wasn't relevant, if the teacher couldn't tie it in for me or help me see that you learning this right now is going to help you do this down the road, I was like, yeah, I'm out. This is pointless. So I was elsewhere. I was planning in my mind.
I hope those teachers are following you on Instagram.
Oh, I hope not.
They'll eat their words that they probably didn't mean with.
Well, I mean, that's, a lot of what, number one, Instagram isn't real, right? So let's all be real about Instagram. I mean, that's, not what my life really looks like. I mean, yes, I take those pictures. Yes, I was in those places. Yes, I'm doing that. But, there's not pictures of working late at night or on weekends or early in the morning or,
Trying to get the boys to bed, trying to get them to clean their rooms.
yeah, brush their teeth. Yeah. My wife to come back home, all that stuff.
So you're saying you turn that into a superpower. Like that kind of follows with the episode that you're in way before where you were talking about.
Remember that one? Way
growing
before?
it,
I do.
multiply it, like
do.
leverage it. You're saying I've
Yeah.
leveraged a freaking mental disorder, which I'm not saying you
Yeah,
have, but
yeah.
ADHD is
Yeah.
is what it is. But I've harnessed that for my benefit. That's a badass right there.
Yeah. The first time I really heard somebody that I look up to put it that way. I don't profess at all to be the one who came up with that. And then I was like, wait, I do that. There's a guy named Mike Patey. Mike Patey lives in Sandy, Utah. In the aviation community, he's a god.
Mm.
And if you get a chance, look up Mike Patey on Instagram or on YouTube, Instagram
We'll
too.
tag him in the show.
Yeah. So anyway, he's got a twin brother and they speak on stage at ADHD conferences. And their entire pitch is we've taken this and made it our superpower. And, I listened to them and I got involved watching his YouTube videos because of his aviation content. And then somehow it led me into like, well, hold on, he does this too. And that led me down that path. And so, yeah, I think that as somebody who struggles with ADHD and remaining focused, you can also use that as, I've come to learn that most people aren't able to have 5 different things going at any one given time.
Especially men. That's literally true scientifically about the male brain. So that this would be a superpower if you can entertain multiple thoughts or multiple projects or multiple things. That's why women are so often frustrated with the guy who's not listening or whatever, because he really literally can't really think. The typical guy can't really think of more than one thought at one time. So if you're saying you've noticed that you could do that, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, there's a lot of things. I do a lot of planning for our motorcycle trips and adventures, and a lot of times there's 3 or 4 of them being planned at once, and everything that goes along with life and planning, and that's I think that's one of the ways that I'm able to do a lot of the things I'm able to do back to back to back, and it's not it's not exhausting. It's still fun. I'm on to the next thing. I'm not stuck in the past. I'm on to the next.
Taco Mike, you've I'm not trying to diagnose you here either, but you've talked about being a little scatterbrained or whatever at
I have
times.
all the disorders. Get your DSM out. I'm looking at DSM-5. Just open any page, put your finger down. I have it.
So do you relate to what he's talking about? Because you seem to always have a whole multitude of things going on and tons of energy and just focus. But, you said your wife hates how your garage, how you keep your tools are disorganized or whatever. Do you relate to this?
Yeah, I have super spaz brain, and that's why Justin and I are buds, and why I want him to play do all the action scenes. I'll do the love scenes in the movie in my life. You do the action scene.
Okay.
And
I'll
that's
be your stunt double.
You can
I'm gonna have to lose some weight.
This is why I think, some birds of a feather flock together. And being scatterbrained is a superpower. And I completely agree. I've dabbled with that concept of taking your deficiencies and turning them into your superpower. And I have experienced that in the 12-step journey that I have personally walked in my own life. And I've walked it first for myself and then after for others, living in active step 12. And one of the things that has been real to me is the fact that everybody who comes into 12-step has a shitstorm story to tell. They've all got, nobody cares really what your story is. Like, oh, cool story, bro. Like somebody comes in and they're like, yeah, this and that and the other thing. And yeah, it's just interesting story, but I don't care. I don't care that those details are your details. I mean, I care about you and I care about, but your story doesn't make you special. And the more you think this is a little minor tangent, and then I'll jump back to what I was talking about. I just feel like I should mention this.
It's ADHD all over the place.
Yeah, see, right? Even when I talk, I'm sort of scatterbrained. When someone thinks they're special, that level of narcissism is debilitating and then will continue to trap them. I just wanted to make that point. To veer back, the through line, I think of a 12-step journey, a healthy through line for me anyway, is my catastrophe, my own personal catastrophes are my hidden superpower. Because I am no longer afraid of personal catastrophe. I'm no longer afraid of embarrassment. I'm not afraid of what people will say behind my back. I'm not afraid of failure. I'm not afraid to self-inflict failure. I'm not afraid of death. I'm virtually immune or beyond feeling, maybe that's not the exact way to say it, but I'm beyond caring about the outcomes of certain things. My wife and I have faced huge trials, and I'm not afraid of divorce. I'm not afraid of, there's so many things that I am just not afraid of. That's not to say I want to invite them, but they don't scare me, and I'm not sitting on the edge and the ledge looking over the canyon wondering, when will I get pushed? I don't care if I get pushed. I don't care. Like, it doesn't matter. I don't really care. So to be at a place where I can just look super critically at all my flaws and faults and, the dumpster fire that is the totality of my life, and then to look for ways to see strengths in that, and then to find like the opportunities there. To me, that's like, our other show, we talked about tools. So why wouldn't I look at the dull knife in my toolbox and think, well, how can I polish that? What can I do? Like, I'm not going to throw that knife away because maybe I can't, right? Maybe I'm predisposed and I'm wired for certain personality attributes. I can't separate myself and I can't solve it. So how can I make friends with it? It sounds like you're friends with your demons. You're friends with the shadow side of you. And I don't mean to disparage any of the many, many personality, I'm not saying this is a personality defect, but many of the personality tics that you have, that I have, that we all have, these are not negatives. These are positives. That's a beautifully mature and beautifully responsible and super alpha place to get to. Sounds like this, what's his name? Mike Patey?
Mike
Patey is doing it. Mm-hmm. Do you guys have any examples? Brad, I'd love to hear what you have to say about this, of other dudes who have these flaws, these demons. Again, I'm not saying that any of these are demons, but I'm just throwing it out there that, do you know anybody with some of these things that could be labeled as these deficits, and yet they're somehow kicking ass in spite of that?
Yeah.
Yeah, things like OCD, someone's really particular, very detail-oriented or whatever, and they continue to do it until it's perfect, and their effort. So it may look a little rigid, it looks a little psychotic, when you're locking the door 100 times and it has to be in a particular to the melody of like, Yankee Doodle or whatever. And if you mess it up, you got to start it over. But on the job, that person's killing it, or they have, their place is really clean, or they have, I would say there's things like that I know about where people have what looks like a weakness, but they can capitalize on that somehow.
Harness it, use it, turn it into the superpower.
I was having a conversation actually with my brother just this morning, actually, and we got on the topic of something that I think is really common, and I don't know that it's a disorder or a tic, or call it what you will. Brad, you could probably shed a little light on it, but it's imposter syndrome. And I think that's a very huge limiting factor for a lot of people, that if they can get to the point like we're at with ADHD or something else like that, or like Brad, you're making the example of somebody with an OCD that makes that a benefit in their life. Somebody that's feeling imposter syndrome, I think that's a major limiting factor that people
super
can
common
get over, and it's super common. And I had a conversation with my brother about it this morning, and we were laughing about it because he was telling me about the way something made him feel. And
was he kind of admitting to it? He was copping to it?
Yeah, he was. And he was laughing about it because he was like, I don't know why I feel this way, but this is the way I was in this meeting and I felt this way, and we were having that conversation and we laughed about it and overcoming it. And I think that it's about overcoming those types of things, whether it's ADHD or whether it's imposter syndrome or whether it's an OCD or something that is a limiting factor.
Beliefs about money, beliefs about like who you are as a person. I'm not enough. Nobody loves me.
Yeah.
I'll never make it in this job, this title, this whatever.
Yeah.
You could spin that 1,000 different ways.
You really could. And I mentioned in the previous podcast that I was on with you guys about being in sales. And I spent a lot of years in sales, and I was a student of sales, and I started when I was young. And sales is, to me, the best thing that ever happened in life, because it unlocked life's potential for me. And I think anybody that's able to replicate, whether it's in sales or something like sales, to achieve, what you can in that space by unlocking your potential or being kind of forced to either quit or unlock your potential is a huge benefit. So in that space, there's fear. Everything is based on fear.
In sales?
Yes, it's fear of rejection. So you're going to go up and you're going to say hi to somebody. You're going to take the up, Brad. Mm-hmm. And you're going to go say hi to somebody you don't know, and you have no idea ahead of time how that conversation's going to go. And you have to be okay with that. You have to swallow that fear. And you have to swallow the fear of rejection, and you have to swallow the fear of imposter syndrome, and you have to swallow all of these fears to get what you want, which is a paycheck. And I think people that can take themselves down that road, whether it's, in sales, I've helped a lot of people get into sales that were struggling socially or struggling in life, and sales literally like rejuvenated their life because they had to face all of their human fears.
It taught them that they could do the thing that they feared. They just had to take a step.
Well, you get to take, what other thing can you do in your life where you have to take 50 ups a day, where there's 50 new people walk in the door and you have to go, hi, I'm Justin, and shake their hand and greet them. And what other opportunity do you get in life to take that many ups? It's law of large numbers. You survive because you got to figure it out, if you're fearful of that. So
we're talking about engagement. So this is all doing. Mike, you're talking about the fearlessness. We're talking about doing. When it comes to, on the job, most of the guys listening to this show are probably hard workers and they do well. When it comes to like family stuff and being at home, one of these Red 9 things talks about, you work hard on the job and you work hard at home. There's just work to be done. Later we'll talk about leisure and recreation, but like when it comes to doing, overcoming the fear or resistance internally or distractions or whatever it may be, how do you guys stay focused in your household with your families?
That's a good question, Brad.
Let me ask you this, just curious, real quick. Be honest. Do you
Yeah.
play video games?
I have a video game console. I love video games. I do enjoy them. I haven't played video games in years.
Okay.
But there's like a one game came out a couple years back, and a buddy had it, and I sat down and played it, and I beat it like in one night, and
Kind of dove into
didn't
it.
play it ever again. Like I stayed up until 3:00 in the morning, drank Mountain
its
Dew,
ass, and then you
like did the whole thing. And I don't play video games, so
Okay. So you're balling. That's, I don't know. Just Mike, video games?
Never, no interest.
TV? I know Mike hates TV because he spells it like this: TEEVEE. That's like, I'm not a TV guy. I don't
I know.
I want information. I don't need to be entertained. But
Yeah.
So being engaged in your family and your home, the trash has got to be taken out. There's things to do. You've got the honey-do list, and we kind of the cliche thing about, you don't have to keep reminding me every 6 months. I'll do it. I'll get around to it. But some of that is because we're busy. We do need to check out. We do have to relax. We got to sleep sometimes and all that. But I think far too many men are just checked out. I mean, I know guys right now who are living in Las Vegas, 110, 115 degrees. There is nothing cooling their home. It's an older home with a swamp cooler, which is broken. And because he doesn't ask the question, take the up, do whatever, he's living inside his house, and he's okay with that.
You mean he's accepted the misery because of his inability to like change his circumstances, his unwillingness to like take an up. He's just resigned to his fate. Like, well, fuck me, then I guess I'll just sit here. Yeah, that's kind of shitty.
I think any man who's failing or is broken, there's a level of disengagement. He's checked out spiritually in his relationships. He's checked out from his job. He's checked out. So how do we stay checked in? And I guess I'm particularly talking about at home, because that's not the funnest place to focus.
Yeah, absolutely. My wife, choosing the right wife is how I do that. My wife and I don't have a perfect marriage. It's never been perfect. I don't think anybody's marriage is perfect. It's had its ups and downs, but I love her to death, and she's very opposite to me. We're opposites. What she finds important, I don't really find so important, and what I find really important, she's like, well, "What are you even worried about?"
She's good looking and smart. You're not. So
yeah,
much.
Exactly.
You're none of those things.
She's a bulldog at home. Cleanliness, put away, organized, squared away, and that's like her domain. And I'm more lax with that stuff. I'm not a slob, but at the same, and I like a nice clean space, but
you don't mind if there's a spoon in the sink.
Yeah, I'm not thinking about it. My mind is elsewhere. My mind is not there. Hers is. And I've found that having that other half that's worried about what you're not, her eye is on the other ball, right? I just have to be cognizant of that and follow her lead. If she asked me to take the trash out, I take the trash out. Now, I'm never going to think like I should take the trash out by myself.
You're not anticipating it the way she does.
Nope. And she understands that about me. At first in our marriage, she was pissed off because she had to ask me to take the trash out. Like, do you not also see that the trash is full?
That's funny.
Every man's heard that line.
Yeah.
And if it's not the trash, it's something else. It's mow the lawn, or the roof needs the thing.
The toilet's
whatever.
running.
And the real answer, which is what I say, how I'm still married, I have no idea. God bless her. So what I say is like, well, actually, I was thinking about the motorcycle ride I'm going on next week, and I didn't even see the trash can.
I didn't know we had one.
I didn't even. Where are we right now? Like literally, I'm physically here, but I'm not here, and so I have to work on that. She reins me in,
dude. So in the previous show, I introduced Justin as one of the most alpha guys I know, and he's telling me he's at home, he's taking orders, and I think that's kind of cool because you understanding like your strengths and your complementary strengths and how she's better at that. And you're okay for her to remind you. You're okay for her to ask you. You're okay for her to tell you, and you just do that. That's kind of cool. I don't think we've got to be running around like we're the dictator of our home. some guys are taking this leadership thing a little too far, and they think they've got to be the boss of every time the trash goes out or whatever. You're taking orders.
Oh yeah, I take orders at home. That's her domain.
Like a good soldier should.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. That's her wheelhouse. I respect that. And frankly, I don't know what I would do if it wasn't that way. You know, maybe she'd be okay with spoons in the sink, but I think everybody has something that's important to them, and in a relationship, if you're lucky enough for that to be opposing in a lot of areas, you got to embrace it. You know, let them take the lead. Let them drive.
What about kids? And Mike, any thoughts on like engagement in your home with your family, doing the little jobs, being focused when your kid's trying to tell you something? That's a little bit hard for me. I have 6 of them, so that's I wish some of the older boys had more to share with me now, and I wish I would have taken better advantage of that. But how do you stay tuned in? Engagement in the home.
Screens are not babysitters. Numero uno.
Screens are not your friend at all.
At all. My kids have iPads. They have computers. They have, and we short of putting them in a lockbox, they're not in their possession. They don't have control of them. They're 10 and 12. And if they had control of them, they would literally just stay in their bed and watch YouTube all day.
I was just reading the other day, the American Pediatric Association recommended that especially young children have no more than 1 hour a day of screen time. And most kids, I think, and everybody just said it's okay during Corona, but that's probably more like 12 hours a day, the average kid.
Yeah.
Spending 12 hours a day watching, kind of passively watching something. So screens are not your friend. What other ways can we be connected? Well, and for men too, I think dudes are doing that way too much. We're watching their show. They're on YouTube.
Guilty.
Even if they're learning, their shows, their video games, man, and it's just, it can be, I think, a healthy way to decompress. But it's a matter of like, how you don't have air conditioning in your house and you live in the desert and you've watched every episode of anything. I lost respect for you.
Yeah.
Any thoughts, Mike, about being tuned in, engaged with your family?
Yeah. So when Justin was talking about his wife, it made me think of a couple of things. First of all, I think he talked a lot about respect. And so I know men who believe in this unrighteous dominion principle, and there's this biblical concept that a lot of religions will have a subculture of, and that's the man, the husband, is the leader of the house, and there's a lot of BS programming that happens with people in religions who practice religions of all kinds of different flavors, where there's this super sense of self for the men, get this very super dominant, almost aggressive, dictator. I'm the final answer of everything. Everything needs to come through me. Self-righteous, just like I'm the swinging dick in this house, and everything.
Nobody makes decisions but me.
That's it. You're an asshole. If you're that guy, you're an asshole. And there is no scripture that backs you up. You're just a jerk. If that hits you in the balls, then write me about it. Send me an email. I'd love to have a beverage with you and look at you eye to eye and have a conversation about that, because I'd love you to convince me otherwise. There's too many dudes out there who run around their house with their pants pulled up almost to their tits, and they act like they're the emperor of this little domain and this little kingdom that they've created, and everybody needs to fear them rather than love them and respect them. And you're an asshole. I know who some of these guys are, and I have zero respect for that. None. Because that's not respectable. There's nothing. You're just a jerk. An alpha lives in his home as a member of his home, and his wife is alpha too. There, in the animal kingdom, there are animal societies where the females are the alpha.
Yeah.
In the chimpanzee societies, in the great apes, in the societies of the great apes, it's very often that the woman is the alpha. The males are protectors. The males the males freak. They have a co-equal role in those societies. It's the woman that's the alpha. The female, she sets the tone. She drives the culture of the group, the tone of the family, everything that sort of transpires in the family unit. She runs it. She owns it. And the males, they respect it. And that's not to say that she might need a little tune-up. It can happen. And just like
We all do.
we all do.
Yeah.
It's so the role of the alpha male within his alpha kingdom, which is his home with his co-equal alpha wife, this is a real deal. And if you're expecting your wife, if you're the kind of man who's expecting your wife to serve you and to bring you your food and then to take the plate away and then to do the thing, like, you're a jerk. It just is. And I know what the excuse is. I work all day. She's home all day. Like, I know all those. I've heard them all. I know them. And there's some validity to that. I don't mean to fully discount that. There is some power in that, in those statements. However, there's also the reality that you just might be a jerk, and you may be separating yourself from the full love of your wife and the full love of your kids because of your ego and your attitude. And I say this in love and compassion because there have been seasons in my life where I was that guy. And so it's a criminal calling out a criminal, a jerk calling out a jerk. So that Justin can be a badass and then obey his wife, that's how you alpha. I know all of us, I'll speak for all three of us. There's a great concept of lead, follow, or get out of the way. And there are times where your wife is the alpha because that's her role, and everyone in the household should listen to her and respect her and obey her. And there are times where the dad is the alpha, and that same rule applies to him. However, that scepter of authority is not only shared, but at times it's handed completely over to one or handed completely over to the other. That's the ideal of how power happens in the home. And so this is a really important topic and a really important point to make. I'm sorry
this is super
this
is important because we're talking about taking the actions. We talk about actions, attributes, and attitudes. You're saying this all starts, the actions that you take really depends on your attitude and how you're seeing each other, what you think of yourself and what you think of her. And maybe the same could be true with your kids. You know, what is their role? Are they to sit down and shut up and be seen and not heard? And so maybe it starts with the evaluation of who are these people to me? How important are they to me? That might determine the actions you take on whether or not you do try to notice the trash. My big thing is taking the trash out on, so our trash day is Friday. So for the longest time, I wasn't doing that, and she got mad, and I would say, I work, and I got to get up early the next day, and Friday's my long day, and I had all these excuses. And then we were separated for a year, and she was the one that actually left our home. And guess what I did? I learned that I had to take the trash out because she wasn't there to remind me. She wasn't there to do it.
Yeah.
Men who aren't engaged with their lives and their whatever you're not celebrating and you're not participating in, it's going to go away, whether it's your money or whether it's your family, your wife. And so, attitude. That's a great point, Mike, about you have to understand the roles and respect those. And sometimes you just don't have to be the one who's barking out the orders. You need to be the one to get up and say, I'm on it.
Mike, to piggyback on that point, which I love that point, and I think you said it beautifully. In a marriage, if you're only one decision maker, you're only 50% of what you could be. An alpha male who can give instruction and get instruction just the same and recognize when they should be doing which. They're empowering their partner. They're empowering their wife to use her intellect and to use her power and her knowledge of things.
That's a tool, right?
Yes.
We've continually talked about tools.
Yes.
That's also tribe. We talk about you're a dummy if you're not using other people's perspectives. And we talk about men. You need men. Yes, you need men. But the person in this world that knows you better, even I would say, than your own mother, Because when you were with your mom, you were a child.
Yeah.
She's known you your whole adult life. Hopefully you've had that length of relationship. She knows you, and if you're not listening to that and willing to receive influence from her, you're probably messing it up.
Yeah, and if a guy's ruling his house with a hammer, and nobody else gets to make any decisions, or he's probably not asking his wife how she feels about the decision he's about to make. He's probably just making it because he thinks that that's the alpha thing to do. When in reality, it's not that black and white. You got to back that up a little bit.
Let's talk about play. There's work to be done. There's work in our jobs. There's work at home. You two play pretty hard. You got some cool toys and you do some cool things. What's the value of that? Why do you go off and leave town and spend money and rally up your boys and go do these things? And how does it benefit other aspects of your life? So engagement means you also can check out and, scratch the itch that is adventure that men need and just fun, leisure. You're walking on the beach or you're doing some crazy thing on the side of a mountain with your dirt bike.
I worked a lot of years not doing any of that stuff, wanting to do those things. I was in the retail business. I was in retail sales, in automotive and power sports, and very rarely got to do those things and really wanted to do those things. And I decided about 10 years ago that I was going to orchestrate plans in my life to be able to have freedom of time. And to have freedom of time, that was going to require me to be able to go do things without my wife and my kids, as well as with my wife and my kids. And to be able to go do things without my wife and my kids meant that I had to make for sure that she had a really good foundation at home without me. And for us, that's largely, her parents. We live in the same town as her parents do. And if it wasn't her parents, it would be, or I would make for sure that she has a really good, friend circle so that I can go do those things. And I know that things are good at home. She's not sitting on the couch counting the hours until I get home. And if I'm 2 hours late, she's been at home by herself the whole time. And I think that it starts there. You have to, if you desire to do those things in your life, to go have adventures with your buddies or with your spouse or with your family, which you should go do all three, I think it builds relationships in a way that you can't bond at Buffalo Wild Wings. You can't go down there for an hour. In Mike and I's case, you have to go almost die with your friends on a
yeah, you got to be changing your shorts in front of each other, right?
Yeah, if you almost die with somebody, you'd be surprised at the kind of bond it creates.
Been there, done that.
So, but to my point there is, I think that there's a number of things that you have to build these foundations to, if those are some things that you want to do in your life. You want to go have adventures with your buddies and your family, and you have to build your life to accommodate those things.
You're saying you want her bucket to be full before you take off and kind of do your thing and whatever. You want her to be supported. She's had her own alone time or whatever she may need. She's all set up and prepared, and kitchen is stocked and whatever's necessary. She's in good shape and she's more comfortable with things you might need to do for your own self.
Yeah, absolutely. That's correct. I mean, if things aren't good at home, if you have a wife and you have kids and you want to go fishing with your buddies, or you want to go on an extended weekend with your friends riding dirt bikes, or whatever it is you want to do, you got to make sure that mom is good at home. Because if she's not, you aren't going to have any fun. Sure, you might be able to leave town, but it's going to suck. It's you might as well not even go.
And she's building resentment and stuff like that.
Yeah, and then when you come home, surprise, that's it's not going to be any fun. And so you have to build those building blocks up. You have to make for sure that mama's got what she needs and everything's good at home, and she's got a little bit of her own life to have and has the things that she needs other than just you. If you're all that mama's got and you're the only thing happening, then you're probably not going fishing with your buddies.
So smart, dude. I'm just like, this guy's got some shit figured out. I have like 23 years of behavioral health experience in relationships and all that. And I've literally vented to Justin here about my own relationships and have gotten a ton of good feedback and wisdom from him. He wouldn't be doing this well if he didn't know some things. So good stuff right there, man. Take care of her first.
Yeah.
Set her up with what she needs. Then you can go take care of what you need to do. That's cool. Mike, what's the value of play?
To springboard off of what Justin just said, one of the primary reasons why I launched our business and decided to get out of sort of the 9-to-5 situation was the reality that I saw the ticking clock of the time window that I had left with my son. Because you look at any teenage boy, what is 17, 18, 19? By 19, they're probably gone.
Yeah.
Whatever it's going to be that's going to capture their attention.
If it didn't happen sooner than that.
If it didn't happen at 17 or 18, I'm just saying that generally by 19, every young man typically is gone. And so I just woke up one morning in a cold sweat, right? Metaphorically thinking like, suck. I only have X number of years left. And I had this strong feeling that I need to go to every one of his Boy Scout camps. I need to go to every time there's an outing and an adventure and an invitation to go to anything. There's father and son outings. There's, church level campouts. There's
School
Boy
stuff.
Scout. Yes, everything, like every game, every whatever. And it just occurred to me the only way that I'm going to be able to do that is if I have, and we've talked about this, Justin has talked very, very solidly about this. I need to have total authority over my time.
Yeah.
Every minute of my time needs to be mine and needs to be mine to decide and no one else. And so I thought, well, I need to get my ass in gear then and really make something happen. And that was probably the moment that I decided to launch our business and to take that step. That was the core reason. So to answer your question, the relationship that I have with my son and with my wife when we go and have adventures, it is all, and Justin just hit this too. I only want to make memories. That's all I want to do. I only want to have experiences. And the only way I could do that is have complete freedom and then complete time control. And then I've chosen to use those assets to deploy them as much as possible into my wife and my kid. And of course, selfishly too, now it would be wrong of me to not say that I don't also take some of that and spend it on myself. But that's where I choose to, spend a lot of it. And then I echo what Justin said about taking care of your home. There is lore in Native American tribes and then in primitive cultures where there are cultures within cultures. So if you have a tribe consisted maybe of 150 people. And so the number of tribes people that were in any one tribe was fairly limited. And then within that, there would be the men's culture and then the women's culture. And then the men would be a culture within a culture. And they would plan and prepare their outings and their hunts and their conquests and their battles and all that stuff. And they would not ever dare leaving the vulnerable. So their women, their children, the elderly, the infirm. They would never, ever, ever leave the society unless they were sure and confident that it would be self-supporting in their absence. And so what Justin is basically saying is the primitive concept of take care of yours and then they will take care of you. So if you haven't taken care of your wife and your home front, then how can they take care of you and allow you the latitude to go out and be that sort of conquering beast man who wants to go have adventures and do those things? So he's just spoken a massive truth. I concur, Doctor.
How does adventure and fun, you both seem to enjoy the outdoors and motorsports and things like that. How does that stuff help you in the other aspects of your life? Why do you need to do that? Is it necessary? I think it's necessary.
I do too. I think it's hardwired into testosterone that it's an absolute fundamental requirement. I think it's
necessary.
pre-wired in.
So what are the things you do? What are some of your typical activities? How does it bless you in the other parts of your life?
On the last podcast I was on with you and Mike, it was we talked about relationships and we talked about the value of relationships in life and how relationships really are the greatest currency. And to have tools And those tools are your circle, your tribe. You know, the best tools that you have in your toolbox is the people that you know and their skills to help you. And there's no better way to bolster those kinds of relationships that are lifelong relationships. I think most people have a friend or somebody that they can not talk to for 2 years, and that friendship never changes. Those kinds of friendships are built on adventures. You know, I mentioned Buffalo Wild Wings or the bar or going to the park, and, you know, you're at a kid's birthday party and, you know, there's all this stuff going on. You're never, ever going to build a long-standing relationship with people that are going to be meaningful or could be meaningful in your life at those places. You go hiking or living out of a tent or go on a motorcycle adventure with those guys one-on-one, and you go live in the dirt with them for 4 or 5 days, and there's a bond there that's completely different than any other way that I know how to create it.
Wow. So the benefit of that for you so much is the relationships that you form on that. Do you ever do any of those things alone? I mean,
yeah, I do. I've done a number of solo rides, and I absolutely love solo rides. I haven't done one in a number of years. I went to Canada a few years back on my adventure bike, and it was incredible. But it's just a different experience.
Well, and maybe the relationship you need to foster sometimes is with yourself, with your higher power, that needs attention too. And I can't do that if I'm surrounded by. So that's valuable to be alone and experience connectedness to Justin.
I find a lot of enjoyment today. I find that my bucket's way overflowing of adventures. I'm very fortunate to get to do a lot of going and doing stuff that's really fun with friends. And I really find enjoyment today, the most enjoyment, in bringing new people in to do that their bucket isn't overflowing or even close to full yet. Some rides back, a friend that I share kind of planning responsibilities with for adventure rides, his name's Dominic. He's a member of the Alpha Quorum. He suggested to me, let's invite everybody. I was like, man, you have lost your mind. Like, I was always the guy that 6 to 8 people max. You know, it was an elite group, guys that were very good riders. I didn't want to ride with anybody. I was kind of a snob about it, right? And he was like, man, there's so many people that want to go on these rides that have never been on one. Let's invite everybody. And I told him he was insane, out of his mind. And he finally convinced me, just let me do one ride. You plan it. Let me just invite everyone. And we went on this ride with 24 people. It was a complete hot mess, right? But it worked. And like, there were 24 people that I think probably half of them had either never been on an adventure motorcycle ride or hadn't been on one in years. And even though it was a hot mess, everybody was like, when is the next one? That was incredible. That was amazing. And we had amazing camp nights out. And Mike disappeared every day and would show up at camp with some crazy story that he found a Volkswagen bus and some hippies to hang out by the river with. And I mean, you know, it's one of those things that like, you're doing it and you're like, this couldn't be written into a movie. Like, there's no way to replicate this other than to do it. And since that ride that Dominic convinced me to be a part of, where we just invited everybody, we've done numerous 20 plus people rides today, and we've kind of got it figured out. It's not a hot mess anymore. And it's hugely gratifying to be able to put something like that together that I'm comfortable with, that other people look at and they're like, well, you know, how do you plan this? They don't even know where to start. You know, we just have done it for so many years that put it together and go do it. And to see the enjoyment that people get out of it and the fulfillment that they get out of it is really the reward.
It's amazing to hear you talk about that. I'm a person that's never done that, but to hear what Mike has said about these kinds of things and you now, this is a lot more mushy and a lot more, you're talking about things of the heart. This looks like a bunch of loud, crazy dudes out there, tearing up the mountainside or whatever. You're talking about touchy-feely shit. You're talking about loving your friends. You're talking about making connections. This is a whole different, I think this will be shocking to some people who listen to this show who aren't into the moto world.
Yeah.
They're going to be surprised to hear this same theme keep coming up. This is not about, jacking off with a machine. This is about.
Feel free to edit that.
This is like, anyway, it seems like it really is much more than I ever thought it was about.
There's a big part for me where you have this group of people and you have this plan. You're going to go from point A to point B. And there is unknown peril between point A and point B. And you can plan where you want to stay, and you can plan the route, and you can plan all this shit that you plan. It always unwinds. You have a ride leader, and you have somebody that's, you should have your shit together, and you have this group of people that all needs to stay safe together, and you need to deliver this package from point A to point B. And it's a group of humans that are in a package together, and you're all going to go forth into the peril unknown. Because when you leave on a motorcycle into the wilderness, there's animals and sticks and rocks and mechanical failures and, human error and all of the different
weather.
Yeah, all the different perils that exist in that type of sport activity. I'm not a veteran, but we ride with a lot of guys that are veterans. It's like that experience. And for me, somebody being that's not a veteran, but I love our military and I love that brotherhood, I think it's the closest thing you can get to that kind of brotherhood, without being somebody who served. And I think that's one of the reasons that a lot of veterans gravitate towards that world, is because it's very similar. It's a brotherhood.
One of the reasons why a military platoon, a military engagement, the brothers in a military group, there's a great book out there by a guy named Sebastian Junger, Tribe. He was a career journalist and then spent his whole career embedded in military groups. And then when he retired, his editor said, where are you going to go with your career? What are you going to write? What's your first book? And he said, I'm going to write a book about PTSD, and I'm going to take the position that my position is the root cause of PTSD is the separation of the brothers, the breaking up of the brotherhood. That these guys have, when they're clicked together in a platoon, that is a primal, that group of men who are there to keep each other alive goes all the way back to the ancestors of the human species, Homo sapiens. You can draw a straight line directly from that tribe all the way back to the first human tribe. And when they're in that group, they have activated all of the ancient DNA, and it is right and it feels right, and it's so primal and so real and so vivid and so exciting. And you just lay testosterone over the top of that like frosting, and it's just right? I'm at a loss. My vocabulary falls away. I cannot explain how, for a man, what that's like. It is everything.
It really is.
And so the thesis of this book is PTSD is a result of the breaking of that brotherhood, the separating of that bond, because everybody goes back home and they go back to their job at Costco and at the insurance office, and they go back into their jobs and their lives, and they have no brotherhood, no connection. They have no direct link that goes back to primal man.
Right.
So when Justin and I are talking about recreating that, and we form a platoon of dudes on motorbikes, or you form a platoon of guys who go on a hike, a 50-mile hike, or a river rafting trip, or a fishing trip, or whatever, or a hunting trip, what happens within the group of those men is they somehow, knowing or unknowing, they are activating a straight direct line that goes all the way back, a telegraph that goes back to the first man, to the first tribe. They are now officially members of that ancient tribe. And the power of the this is a weird thing, hear me out. The power of the ancestors comes forward, and then it just saturates itself in that newly formed tribe. And then every brother in that tribe is energized by that ancestral power. I'm talking crazy talk, but I
get it.
But I suggest that it is real and it is true, and it's a thing. And so when Justin says we sit around a campfire after a day of like trying to keep each other alive and we're trying to deliver this package, isn't that what happens in the platoon? All that matters is that we survive this day and we get to sit around a fire and isn't there power in staring at a flame?
Yeah.
Because ancestrally, when we had a fire, we were safe. The animals were kept away. We knew we could cook. We knew we had warmth. The fire represented life. If we would make it another day if we could just have another fire. And so I'm telling you, when you have a group of dudes who have had an adventure and they're sitting around staring into the glowing yellow, they have just plugged electrical cords straight into the ancestry of humanity and of being a man.
Yeah.
All the way back to the beginning of time. And I can't explain it, and I have a hard time putting it into words, but that is what's happening. And so when dudes sit on a couch and play video games, I would suggest that that's a false flag of that. But I would suggest that most of what men do in their private time that is self-destructive is this really failed attempt to try to tap into that and to try to become a part of that. And it's a missed opportunity. What would be next level. So what did you say about sales? What's the phrase? We were saying it a lot.
Taking it up.
Take it up.
Taken up.
So the dude who's sitting there playing video games, he can take it up and he can translate from false reality to true reality and actually get plugged in if he would go and associate himself with some other group of like-minded dudes who find something it can be sports, it could be music, it could be anything. But to get plugged in, to get like activated in a community of dudes then I would suggest that you do need some adrenaline, you do need some adventure, you do need risk. So I don't know if you can run around with musical instruments and have a life or death experience, but I challenge somebody to do it. But if you can inject into your group sweat and risk and reward and all of those things, whatever the interest is, who cares if it's motorcycling, whatever your interest is, you inject all of that into it. You have just plugged in to the power of the earth.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
And you're alive.
Even the travel itself, you're talking about the destination, we're delivering a package. So it's not just going to sit in the woods to camp or whatever, but you have a mission, you have a purpose. You're going from here to there. There are places you want to get to along the way. And then you've talked about this too before, Mike, about resolving the problems, working on fixing each other's stuff, or this guy got a bum leg or whatever is going on. And you're like helping each other get there. That's cool stuff. Guys that aren't into dirt bikes, what kinds of things and what comes to mind? What other non-moto adventures might you recommend for people?
You know, there's hiking groups. I mean, you can go on Facebook. There's actually, I think there's a website that's, I don't know what it's called, but it's like a hiking forum, and people have, they go hiking at Mount Charleston or wherever your local mountain is. You can go hiking with groups of people.
Go to REI and join you just go on the REI website and there's local chapters of hiking, camping, adventure groups, things like that.
Yeah. I think, there's guys that, if you hang out at the local fishing shop, if fishing's your thing. I know guys that surf, that live on the coasts, that they've got their group and they've got their set that they surf, and that's their deal. And I think you got to find what your deal is. You got to find your tribe. I mean, playing video games, and I'm not a proponent of playing video games, but there's a similar feeling that you get. Like, I've played Modern Warfare and some of these other new video games that are these warfighter first-person shooter games where you're operating in a group of people and you get a little bit of a feeling.
Get a taste of that.
You get a taste of it, and it's just a sliver. But Brad, there's a feeling that Mike's trying to get to it, and I don't really know how to put it into words, but it might sound silly too, that there's a feeling that when you roll out down the road with your buddies on your bikes and you're all together and you're moving as one, and you kind of have this mass fluid motion together. I've never felt that kind of strength. I mean, you literally feel invincible.
You're cowboys on a roundup. You know, you're going from Canada,
good one.
Canada to
Yeah.
Mexico with 10,000 head of cattle or whatever.
And I know
Good
it's
one.
totally stupid because, frankly, you're more exposed than if you were sitting in a car by yourself, right? You're not invincible at all. But that's the feeling that you have. Like, you literally feel like you're rolling into battle with brand new tanks and nothing can touch you.
Bring it.
Yeah.
All right. So how does this, when you come back from that, you're saying you have this power, you have this rejuvenation, you feel connected to other men, you're connected to the ancestors, you're feeling this primal need, you know, when you come back to the job, when you go back to the wife who says the garbage needs to be taken out, how does that carry over? What's the residual effect? And because it's quite an investment, you're taking time away, there's cost to it or whatever, but what's the result for the next month, for the next year?
Right when you come back, I find that right when I come back from a motorcycle trip, first couple days are tough. It makes you question your daily existence. And I think that as tough as it is, it's a huge benefit because we all need to have a point every so often where we step out of our reality and completely remove ourselves from our current reality, from our current routine, and have the ability to have 2 or 3, maybe 4 days where we're doing something like motorcycling where literally you can't think about the things at home.
You better be paying attention.
You better, yeah. There is no, I can't, I mean, I can have ADHD all I want, but I can't think about 9 different things when I'm trying to stay alive on a motorcycle. And when you get home and you've been on a bike for 2 or 3 days and you've lived minimalistically, you know, you've had a toothbrush and some toothpaste if you're lucky, and a change of underwear, and if you're lucky, you brought 2 pairs of socks and a t-shirt, and that's about it, some water. You get home to all your crap that drags you down and that you're worried about in the garage or sitting outside in the sun or all these different materialistic things that we encumber our lives with. And I know that for me personally, I come home and it's like, I struggle with the urge of like just taking everything I own and shoving it out on the curb with a free sign, you know, because I want to go to this minimalistic lifestyle, but I think there's a balance there to be had. And I think that stepping outside of your
routine,
of your
mundane, everyday,
it makes you reevaluate your choices in life. And everybody should understand that you can reevaluate your choices in life every day if you want to and make new ones. You don't have to be stuck in it. But I find that it's hard to look from the outside looking in if you don't leave. Adventures do that.
wow, that's powerful.
Brad, question for you. Once upon a time, you were a college athlete, kind of a badass one. And then when you were on a team, you were in this cohesive unit ready to go do battle against the opposing teams. There was probably an energy and a power and a camaraderie in that. Can you describe it?
Yeah, it's probably the last time I felt alive, you know. I mean, I think I finished all that when I was about 23, maybe 24. And I have been seeking something that has that feeling ever since, never found it. And so, yeah, I mean, you have a common purpose. You meet up at a common place. There's language. There's culture. There's like stuff. There's things. You talk about the shiny objects, and, you know, there's the weight room and the field and the equipment and so forth. So, yeah, sports. I have a client who is involved in a softball league, and when the season is on, you know, he's playing 3 or 4 nights a week. I thought, why is this a problem? Why is this a problem for his wife? And the problem was he wasn't taking care of things beforehand. But yeah, sports, you're never too old. There's old men who are golfing. That's a little mini journey. There's nothing life-threatening there. Maybe if you're old enough or have enough.
If you're in Florida.
Yeah, right. Serious. So athletics, that's a great way. There's definitely a group feeling that comes with that. I just think some men they've never had the experience. They didn't do it as a kid. never were in scouting. They never were on a team. They never had anything like you're talking about. They don't have the means to do that. Where do they go? I love the idea about hiking groups. That's free to walk out.
Yeah, hiking's free.
That's free.
As long as you don't go to REI. REI is not free.
It'll suck you in.
Yes, it will.
Out $10,000 later, you're so
Then
outfitted.
you just got to get back to your resources and figure out why you're not doing what you love to make the money to be able to do the things that you really.
Tell me
that you
about
really
this
need to
guy
do.
that's the softball player, and his what? So this is an interesting little sidebar, and it goes back to what Justin was saying. I would suggest that if an alpha man has not laid the groundwork, just like we talked about that tribal society, those men aren't going to leave the tribe unless they know their elders and the women and the vulnerable, the children are taken care of. As soon as they feel comfortable and confident in that, then they're free to go. Do you know of guys that are going out and recreating at and neglecting taking care of the tribe before they leave?
Yeah, so many times it has to do with like substance use and stuff like that. So they go to the softball tournament, all good. She's totally cool with that. But now you're drunk and you're doing blow all night until this is all over, and you end up who knows where, and you come dragging in the morning, not feeling like taking the trash out or whatever that is. And so they're overdoing the stimulation. I think that's why so many men do have addictions. They don't have the stuff like you're talking about. It's like sensory. There's a need for like sensory stimulation, and when there's nothing, there is no.
Right, you're introducing drugs at that point to get that feeling.
I just want to feel some euphoria, and what you guys have described. I've seen your videos and pictures and things. I'm thinking, dang, that's what they're after. This is a whole nother kind of high, and so when men blow it, they do it too much. They do it too often. She hates it. It's because they end up at the strip club after the softball game, or they're being irresponsible. They're overdoing it, and they haven't taken care of things at home first.
That shuts my mouth because I know those guys and I don't understand it. That's sort of like given an opportunity. How do you explain? So what do you say to a guy like that? How do you like just try to give him some sense of like a reality check on that?
What you're doing is necessary. Men need this kind of thing. Good on you for doing it. Good on you for having a little physical fitness in your life. You're running around at softball practice or the game or the tournament or the golf every Saturday morning or whatever it is. But you can't just be engaged in your shit. You got to be engaged on your job. You got to be engaged at home. And then, go out and have the adventure and have fun. Everything you guys are talking about has to do with we worked first and then we played. So he needs that. And I tell the wife, the woman in his life, yes, he needs to do that. You should support it. He's got to do it. Maybe there's limitation. Maybe don't come home at 4 a.m. from a softball game that ended at 9. But it's necessary. I think that stuff is necessary. Any variation of this stuff, I think it's just hard to find. Maybe around here it's the desert. These things you're talking about, you guys have means that many men I work with don't have. And so
that might be true. I mean, we may be in a little bit of a privileged class to be able to go and buy these motorcycles, and if we have the time and means to go and do these things.
But they're playing pickleball at the city park down here for free. I mean, there are things, and if you're not making excuses, first I think you got to be convinced of the need for this stuff. Connection, engagement, sweat, like involvement. There's a goal. There's something competitive about it. I'm sure you guys get into little games and little things
that's
that are like
so much a part of it.
Watch my wheelie, see what I can put on.
There's the before, so there's the ceremony of the build up and the preparation and all that, and then the execution, and then afterwards there's all the like daydreaming about the next one, and then busting balls like, hey, you did a thing or you whatever, and it's just it's a circle, and then this circle needs to overlap to the next circle. Each one needs to bleed a little bit into the next one and the next, and forever. Until you're dead.
You have an inside joke about something that only you two know about.
That's right. And
There's
that
a
carries
little,
forward.
That's
builds.
a relationship. That ball busting and stuff like that. That's one of the important ways that men bond is you got to have a little story. You got to have a little colorful thing that happened that maybe you two only know about, or you and this that were on this trip.
Those are all these tribal bonds.
Yes.
Mike took care of that for us.
What is that?
When you wrecked my bike.
Oh boy! Send me a message. I'll send you pictures of how I crashed Justin's motorcycle. That's
That was a good bonding
good
experience.
bonding
We
experience.
bonded.
No
we
one died.
bonded. We bonded
We're
so
so
good.
died.
close after
Death
that.
was close, but no one died. I did not die. Why would a guy think he's so entitled to go out? This is just really high level immaturity to take the gift that maybe your wife is giving you and say, yeah, that's fine. Go out, go with your buddies. And then to really like hyper sort of abuse that opportunity. That's some high level immaturity, or am I seeing it wrong?
No, it's self-centeredness, and I think it's easy to be engaged when it's your hobby, when it's your thing, your boys, your special thing that you do that you're into. That's easy to stay connected to, and it's easy to have the energy for it. It's easy to justify the expense. It's easy to, but he's got a problem with just narcissism.
This guy have, I mean, do these men have children at home, wives, the whole thing, whole package?
And some would say, and they would say, oh, they're great dads. They're really involved, but he can't look me in the eyes. He can't hug me. He can't tell me he loves me. He can't buy me anything for my birthday. He can't do all these other things. And then she bitches, and there's a resentment and just bitterness. So he's not really done the first thing. In the other episode, Justin talked about his greatest resource was relationships. Everything we've really talked about in these series of these episodes we've been on is about the people.
Yeah.
Dirt bike trips into some crazy terrain, that's about the people.
It is.
And the guy who needs to, the soldier with PTSD, what's wrong is the people. And I was so shocked to hear that of all the things like Justin has done, of all of his little toys and all the trips and the things that he can experience in life, what he values most and sees most important is the people. And I just think a lot of men, we're not naturally good at connecting, understanding, and really bonding with people. So that's where we get into trouble.
I think it should be said that, I mean, for a grown-ass man with a wife and kids to think it's okay to go out and get hammered drunk all night and do drugs is I mean, so far beyond even rational thinking. You know, I've never understood why any grown person sees that as okay. You know, it's not. You know, you got to be able to, you can't have any success, any level of success in your life if you can't function at a high level under massive amounts of willpower and control, and be in complete control of your faculties, and go to bed at a decent hour and get up and keep the ball rolling. You know, with alcohol and drugs, you can't do that. You're giving up that option. And so I see that as something that, you know, college kids do. They don't have any responsibilities. You know, they're doing dumb shit. You know, a grown-ass man that's got kids and a wife and probably a job, and, you know, that's not okay.
You know, it's interesting, too, when you look at what really drives addiction, it's a lack of connection. It's a sense of disconnection. I mean, I don't mean the kid who's just partying in college or whatever, but someone who's really stuck in addiction, they're feeling isolated. I'm willing to bet. I would be interesting to kind of poll or to look at some of the people you guys do these rides with, and they spend a lot of their time engaging in like high quality experiences like that with other guys. How many of them, I don't mean, you know, have a shot, smoke a cigar here and there. I'm wondering how many of them are ruining their lives with addiction. I would say probably not many, because they're connected. They're stimulating their senses with the bikes and and the adventure that comes with that.
Right.
I'm guessing these are not a bunch of.
There's stupidity that's going on. There's, you know, tomfoolery and all that.
Sure.
But these guys are not like crackheads.
Yeah. It's interesting how we end up talking about relationships. And if we're talking about engaged, and maybe one of the last points I want to talk about here is being able to listen, being able to love the people in your life, being able to be selfless. How in the world do you find the energy to do that stuff? The people in your life don't have good vibes, but you do. How do you maintain? How do you engage when the energy's not okay around you?
Well, if it's at home, I bring it to light. I point it out. Whoa, hold on, stop here. This is anybody else not having fun? Because this isn't fun. So let's change this. And just bring it right to the forefront. You know, if I see it, I'm going to make for sure that everybody else sees the same thing and is in agreement that this isn't what we want. This is not the reality we want to be in. So what are we going to do to alter this reality? And just bold-faced make a choice that you're not going to accept it. You're going to change it, whatever it may be.
You're like hitting the pause button. Is what you see here
Exactly
okay with you? Because it's not okay. And this can be reversed. We can change what's happening.
Exactly. And through that communication, I think that changes everything. If you can say, whoa, hold on. Stop screaming, chill out, turn the TV off, put that in the garbage can. Let's talk for a minute. Just literally, like you said, that's a great way to put it. Push the pause button on the remote and have a quick little like, whoa, is everybody cool with what's going on right now? Because I'm not. This sucks. That seems to right the ship.
Wow, that's awesome.
So that's leadership, right? That's leadership. Somebody stepping up.
You're not getting sucked into the... We're saying in Alpha participates with good vibes. You're not just there at the Christmas party. You're happy to be there. You're pleasant. You're not in Hawaii. I heard this tonight before you guys came in. They were in Hawaii on this special family trip with the grandkids, and the guy is just pissy about, he's just fault finding about every little thing. This place is too busy. We might as well have gone to LA, and just picking apart. So he's there. He's involved, but that's sucky, a sucky level of engagement if you got piss poor attitude.
Man, that's true, right?
You can't just, be at the Halloween dance. You have to be in control of what energy you're bringing. How can you influence the energy and the environment that you're in? You guys have super smooth, like charismatic energy that's just positive. I know you have your bad days, but how do you maintain positivity?
Desire for an outcome. I want the outcome of my life. I want them here's I think I've said this before, but I want I work for my funeral backwards. I hope that my funeral is a dance party at a skating rink with hot air balloon rides and like balloon animals, a weird clown in the corner making balloon animals. And then I want everybody to have, hopefully, ideally, some funny story where like, remember when Mike did this dumbass thing or whatever. I want it to be a party. And the only way that it'll be a party or for me to be remembered as somebody worthy of a party is that the wake I leave behind the boat of my life passing through the waters is one that people can surf on, and there's joy and enjoyment, and that's the wake I want to leave behind me. And so that is a result of attitude, like conscientious mental thought choice. What thoughts? I love the little analogy of the guy sitting there being pissy in Hawaii. Dude, you're fucking in Hawaii. Look around, and yes, you're probably cost you more money than you planned on, and yes, you're with your in-laws, and you probably are annoyed by, a lot of things.
Yes, it's humid. Yes, it rains every afternoon.
Enjoy. Find something to enjoy, and then listen.
Right, you're committed. Just own it.
Yeah.
Make the best of it.
You're
committed.
You're committed.
Get into it. So I just choose, to get into it. Whatever it is, it's probably sucky. Most of life, that one poem, it's great. You should look this up. It says something along the lines of, life is like an old-time train journey. It is the track of your life, the train of your life that's on the track. It's bumpy and squeaky and loud, and you barely get any sleep, and the engine is putting out hot ashes, and they're blowing in your face, and it's uncomfortable, and you're jammed in there. But every now and then, it clears up, and there's a cool breeze through the window, and you see a beautiful vista. And that's the moment. Live for that moment. Capture that moment. The other stuff is just sort of the necessary evil to get to that moment. And that's the thought choice that I make.
We need to participate in life, to be involved with the event, the thing, be engaged with our family, but also to have some good energy. That's the alpha has good energy, and he can influence the energy, and he can control his own level of energy. People are pissy, it's hot, something's going on. How do you maintain your frame? How do you maintain your mindset of you're in control of yourself?
It's a huge responsibility for men and for alpha men in a family situation, because you do set the tone. And I think that reminding yourself of that continuously is incredibly important, because you have to understand that your kids are going to follow your lead. Your wife's going to follow your lead. And however you set the tone, you're creating your own reality. Whatever it is you act up about, it's going to follow you.
Dude, I'm going to steal your thing about I'm committed. That is so cool. Whether it's like the marriage, whether it's the trip that you're on, I'm committed. I'm here. I'm on this.
The guy's not going back from Hawaii.
I'm not going. Yeah, we got 4 more days to go.
Yeah, like what are you going to do, bro?
I'm committed. I can make the best of this. I can turn it around.
You have to be committed to it. You have to understand that you don't have a choice in that commitment. You made the choice in that commitment when you got on the plane in LA. Your choice left then.
I was at a recent family event in the Pacific Northwest where they don't have air conditioners, and it was during a hot spell.
Yeah.
And we were indoors in a wedding, and it was like, man, this is kind of rough, No air conditioning, 105 degrees in Seattle, in a wedding, in a suit, with a mask on. They make you wear a mask. So it's like, I can be pissy about this, and I can be mad, or I can say, this is a beautiful family event. I'm recognizing the value of it, and I'm saying, and I'm here to bring some value, damn it. I'm here to take some pictures. I want to see the slideshow. I want to dance with the new couple. I'm committed. I'm going to use it. I'm going to steal it. I'm going to teach people that.
Nice.
Any closing thoughts on being engaged? You're an alpha. You know how to handle the moment. You know how to handle the day. You know how to have fun, whether you're at work or it's time to take out the trash or you're going out with your friends on an adventure. Any final thoughts on living life with engagement?
It says a lot when you check your phone. I do this all the time, and I'm working on stopping it. And I think it's become the normal in our society. It used to be checking your watch. There was a respect thing. You didn't check your watch when you were with somebody because it meant that you were ready to go. You were signaling to them. It was a body language thing that you were done listening. You were not engaged.
It's like jingling your keys.
Yeah, right? Checking your watch. It was a body language communication. And that today is checking your phone. And I think that turning notifications off that you can on your phone really helps people. I try to take my phone and put it down, face down, instead of face up, because then, even if you got the notifications on, the screen comes on and you see you got a text message and it's probably just, some alert that you have set that your bank giving you your balance once a day or something. And I think we've, as a society, forgotten what that says to the other people around us. When we're engaged in a conversation or in a meeting or at lunch or eating and we're checking our phone.
It's funny that Apple Watch is really bad because every text is coming on the watch. And so I'm old school. I'm thinking of the watch thing. And people are doing this every 30 seconds.
All the time.
And it's like, I want to be like.
Yeah, for sure. That's the communication, right? That's the body language. Yeah.
Bring us home, Taco Mike. Engagement.
Want what you have. Find ways to desire the things that are right there in front of you. The looking outside of your current situation at someone else's situation and then feeling bad about what you lack, what you don't have is cancer. And so spiritual cancer, this guy in the moment, right? This guy in the moment, like everything is about being in the moment. And spiritual cancer is looking at somebody else's situation and then having an ache about yours. There's nothing that read Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Happiness.
Man's Search for Meaning.
Yeah, Man's Search for Meaning. That's it. I just reread that not too long ago. to sit on a train headed to Auschwitz and for him to look out the window and for his mind and his heart to just be full of, he found ways to be in his moment and to find joy in a breadcrumb in his pocket. He talks so much about just eating the little piece of bread that he was given, but then saving a tiny piece of it and putting it in his pocket and then reaching in his pocket and feeling that breadcrumb and then fantasize, just being at joy with the fact that he didn't have what he had and he was realistic about that, but he had a breadcrumb. He had something to eat. He was in the moment, or he could look out the window of the train going to Auschwitz and see a sunset and just remember back when he looked at sunsets in the past and what they meant to him and the people he was with. So that's really dramatic and kind of a depressing downer to bring that in. But the reality is like every one of us, regardless of our situation, are better off than 99.999% of the world. And to be first world problems, to be sitting in Hawaii. I know we're picking on this guy, this poor guy, like we're breaking his back. But it's a great sort of analogy. What kind of first world problem is it when you're like the wedding, you're fed and you're healthy?
It's a feast. It's a fancy feast.
Yep. And you have money to get to Seattle and then you're going to leave and go to a hotel and enjoy a pool and air conditioning and a bed, a nice comfortable bed, right? All of this stuff. And for a man to just be a bellyacher, to be a bitcher and a moaner and a complainer about all of the little things is just to miss the mark of life. It's to look at things that are unimportant and unconsequential and then to set those memories. Justin talked so much about like our kids look at us and what are we leaving? Like, oh, dad never has fun. Dad never likes to go on trips. Dad always is complaining about the money. He doesn't want to go there because, he doesn't like grandma and grandpa, and he doesn't want to visit the thing. Like, that's just, if that's your wake, like that's what you're leaving behind. It's the wake of life that's the memories. Like that's the tone that you're setting for your life. And it's just choices. It's just attitude and choices. We talked about that. So that may be a bit of a wrong answer to your question, but the reality is we are so freaking blessed with so many things. And if you're alive and you have family to be with and you have kids to play with, then just dig in and do the work, do the inner work, the soul work to figure out how to find joy in that and live in your life and just freaking wring that wash rag out and get every drop out of it.
I told you, man, I don't know if you knew Mike like this before, but master teacher, thank you both for
having
bringing
us,
this
Brad.
stuff, all of your experiences.
Thanks, Brad.
This really, I would like to be a man like I see you guys are. Thank you so much for being here. And, this is something that this is going to be captured. This is going on the internets and it ain't ever going away. So I hope kids will listen to it someday and people at your funeral will play all the episodes. Episode 75. By the way, this is episode 75. We've done 75 episodes.
And it was really 75. Good for you, Brad.
This is 75.
Congratulations to
Congratulations,
Brad.
Brad.
More than an hour each. If an average book is about 5 hours in length, let's say, to read, what's 5 into 75, math guy?
I don't know.
15.
7, 6.
We've got 15 books worth of content in 75 podcast episodes. And Mike is the one making it hot. So anyway, you guys are awesome. Thank you again for being here. Until next time, no excuses.
Alpha up.
Alpha up.
Gentlemen, you are the Alpha, and this is the Alpha Quorum.